from the man who wrote the book on human behavior, a special edition Richard Flint podcast. Let's talk about it. Let's talk human behavior.
Hey, good morning. Richard Flint here, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Human Behavior. Let me tell you something I've learned. People are so interesting. One moment they could be up, and the next moment down. You know, as long as they feel they're in control of their life, life seems manageable. But let their life be turned upside down, filled with uncertainty, frightened by the unknown. And they tend to find themselves struggling with all that is coming at them. Now, that means that there's a result. And the result that I'm seeing is an increase in their personal stress. Now, think with me for a moment. Does that sound like the time we're living in right now? This new abnormal, and always pay attention to my words. This is not the new normal. This is the new abnormal. Do not accept this as the new normal. It is the new abnormal. This new abnormal has taken away the foundation that many have built their life upon. A life that is out of sync. Now, hear me. A life that is out of sync is a life that's lost its rational thinking. It starts to rely more on its emotions than its mental strength. Let's Talk Human Behavior is all about helping people calm down, regain their internal strength, and find their pathway to being in sync. From the beginning of this podcast, I've committed to doing all I can do to help people be better, be smarter, and be stronger. And during this time of this new abnormal, this is why I've chosen to reach out to a select group of people I respect. And I know share this commitment to helping people live the life that's meant for them. I think there's a life for every one of us that's there for us to live. But it's not just going to be handed to us. It's one we have to seek to find. And as life comes at us from all different forms and from all different directions, we have to be prepared to deal with those times of the unpredictable and the uncontrollable, which to me is where we are right now in this new abnormal. So one of these people that I respect so much is a young lady by the name of Oliveri. And she joins us morning here, night there from Brisbane, Australia. And Joanne, I want to thank you for staying up past your bedtime to do this chat with us. And welcome to Let's Talk Human Behavior.
Thank you, Richard. I'm really honored to be part of this. Thank you for asking me.
So I know that there's probably a few of the people here, maybe a lot of the people who join us for our episodes of Let's Talk Human Behavior that really don't know who you are. So give us a thumbnail, give us a sketch. Who is this lady from Brisbane, Australia, whose name is Joanne Oliveri?
Well, if I was to describe myself, I would say that, people recognize me as being very passionate about what I do. And what I do is I'm a crusader for empowering positive change in the property management industry. And I, discovered a long time ago that was my passion in life. It really does drive me. Having this crusade and this passion has driven me through some, moments in life where I wanted to give up. But this flame inside me just kept burning and would not let me give up. So I really believe, so honestly, that this was what I was put on this world to do, was to, empower this positive change in the property management industry. And to me, it's not about work. It's not about, when you get knocked down, stay down. It's just get up and keep going and keep learning. And it energizes me. So, I would say if people asked who I was, they'd say that's that person who's just so passionate about property management. And they'd also probably describe me as, the purple lover. So a lot of people recognize me for my love of purple. And ever since I was a little girl, purple's always been my favorite color. So I get called names like Purple Love and Purple Empress and Purple in Paris. And, I take that on. So that's our branding. But if, I really dig deep and, look inside as to who I am, my reason for everything I do is my children and now my grandchildren. So, that's what drives me and inspires me to keep going and, it's just the reason for everything I do in this
Well,
world.
and I understand you have a new little grandbaby that right now, because of the quarantine or the lockdown, you haven't been able to see. And I've talked to a lot of grandparents who right now, one of their biggest challenges is that they can't see their grandkids. So as a grandmother, is that true about you?
Oh, absolutely. My little grandsons, I've got two of them. One's just turned 3 whilst we were in quarantine, and little William was born at the start of February. And yeah, we can't see them. They literally live 5 minutes away, and we've just gone through almost like an evacuation from the USA back to Australia, and we thought, we wanted to be close to the children, and we're close, but we're still using technology to talk to them and to see them. So, this crisis that we're going through, the pandemic, has, for anyone who's got children and grandchildren, it does feel so lonely not being able to hold your children and just let them know it's going to be all right. We'll all get to the other side of this. And yeah, you want to reach out to them so badly.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, because it really is, I think, part of the struggle people are going through. Uh, you're driven by passion, and I know you well enough. I know that passion. You and I met a few years ago at the National Association of Realtor Convention, and
Yes.
I can remember us sitting down and talking. And one of the things I felt about you was the passion that you have for what you do with your life, and that passion over the years has got to have been tested, because I know that anytime you have a commitment of your life to something that you feel, and you use the words, and it's the words I talk about all the time, that you're doing with your life exactly what you should be doing with your life. And, how do you sustain that passion when all of a sudden, uh, you get attacked? Because I know that there have been attacks against you and your passion. How do you stay strong in the midst of all of a sudden, you're passionate, and all of a sudden you get a blow from the left or from the right? How do you maintain passion?
That's a really good question. And sometimes, it is difficult because we're all human. And, when we get a blow, and sometimes it's a personal blow, and sometimes it can be a personal attack. I've learned over the years to, get out of my head and, jump inside to my soul, because I learned, as I was guided and driven by my purpose and my passion, that, like it was my soul inside of me that was actually, giving me that energy to keep going, and giving me the solutions that I needed to, work through those moments of doubt. And of course, I, had a lot of conversations with you too. So, like I think it's really important to have someone that you trust that will give you the right advice, so that you can, work through these moments of self doubt and what I call humanness, where, you kind of like forget about your soul, which is, your soul is your purpose in life. And your head is humanness, where you start to overthink things and maybe get a bruise to your ego or something like that. And So, yeah, I think by having someone like you, Richard, who really helps a person to get out of their head and connect with their soul, the more you do that, the more you practice that, the more you believe in it, the more you have faith in what your purpose and passion is, the more that you can get up after, you know, a big blow and, you know, just keep moving forward.
Well, you used a concept there that I think has created so much of the struggle of people today, is that most people don't have a mentor. Most
Yes.
people don't have somebody they can turn to. So what they do is they just reach out to everybody. And it's amazing how everybody has what they think is the right answer, even if they've never experienced what they're talking about. So for you and in what you do in property management, you know, how important is it that you have that open channel with people where you can be a mentor to so many of these people, both in, well, it's not only in Australia, but it's around the world. How important is it that you are a mentor to people?
I think it's, you know, very important because, you know, like I see in them some of the pain and struggle that, you know, I was going through too. And, you know, the ones who are open to being mentored are the ones that will work through that struggle. And they're the ones that you realize that, you know, they're in this for the right reason because it truly is a passion to them. And will that passion be their purpose? Maybe not. And that's where I think some people go wrong. Just because you've got a passion about something doesn't mean to say that it is your purpose. Um, and, you know, I think that's where when people go through all the knocks in life and different things that, you know, they can get up and keep going on that pathway that's, you know, like pushing them forward almost. I think that's when you realize that this is not just a passion, this is a purpose. And you feel this overwhelming sense of responsibility, but it's a good responsibility because, you know, it's almost like a calling that you feel. So, you know, I think that's where some people go wrong. Passion is not necessarily a purpose. And having a mentor can help you to understand, you know, I can be passionate about this, but this passion is actually driving me towards my purpose. And that's where I think a mentor is very, very good because they will guide you on the pathway.
Yeah, one of the things I've learned in working with human behavior is that many people have a passion that's driven by curiosity.
Hmm.
And when you have that passion driven by curiosity, if that curiosity doesn't bring about a defined purpose, then the curiosity dies. But if the passion can connect to
Yes.
this is my purpose in life, then all of a sudden the passion becomes a flame, not just a little spark. And there's a difference between a passion that's a spark and a passion that becomes a flame. And I think one of the roles of a mentor, and I've watched you do this with people, is to question whether this passion driven by curiosity can become a flame, or will it simply die because it's not filled with a defined purpose? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And, you know, when you find, you know, like for anyone that's been driven by a passion that they've realized it is their purpose, they realize that, you know, they might have a defining moment in their life and they want to give up. You know, they just think, that's it, I've had enough. But the purpose won't stop. It's in their head. It's constantly driving them forward. It's like telling them, get up, keep going. And you know, you almost see like crystal clear images of where this purpose is taking you. So there is no doubt in your mind as to what you need to do. And you know that every knock and blow that you have along the way is just a lesson. Um, So, and that's hard. That's really hard to learn that, all these things happen, as a lesson, just, driving you towards what I call the ultimate pinnacle is. So, yeah, it's really hard to explain because it really does feel like this rush inside of you. Um, and I don't need coffee or anything like that. It's like it's already inside of me. So it's kind of magical when you truly connect with what your purpose is.
So, where is this passion and purpose taking Joanne? Where's it taking her?
Well, it's taking me on this crusade um, to find better ways of doing business in property management, find better ways of servicing the clients that need property managers, finding better ways of helping people to enjoy their career in property management. And if they're not enjoying it, guiding them to where their lesson in property management is taking them. But like I see property management as an industry where it's kind of like it's just lost its way. And it's been going backwards for many, many, many years. And, you know, what's happening at the moment, I'm actually very excited about what it's going to do for the property management industry. Um, so, yeah, like I'm not, Pollyanna where you see the positive in everything, but, I have learned that over the years, we have these defining moments and you can find good out of everything that happens.
Well, you've just put together, you were talking to me about before we came on to do the show, uh, that you've put together a world task force for property management and you call it RISE. What's that mean?
Yes. So RISE is it's an acronym for resilience, inspiration, strategy, and empowerment. And I put together a global task force because I didn't want property management to go back to the way it was after COVID. And I see this as a watershed moment for the industry. And I was doing, Facebook lives, and I was getting, a lot of comments, and I could see people hurting and worried, and not sure what the future held, and I could also see that there was a lot of reaction to what was going on, and I thought they're going to come out of this and have problems that they shouldn't have had. And so I was talking to various people, and I put together a task force made up of two representatives from the banking industry, one here in Australia, one in the USA, some people who work on the front line in property management, both here and in the USA, spread across Australia and the USA, and then some different technology companies that support the property management industry. And yeah, we had our first meeting this morning, and we call ourselves the task forces, and we are collaborating to have a look at what the new business model looks like, the new service model, what clients want from property managers, and what our ultimate purpose is as property managers. And it's looking pretty exciting because what I've seen over the last few years is we've had a lot of talent through the property management industry that's been burnt out, or they've just lost their way, or just disillusioned, and a lot of technology, and some really clever technology that either just hasn't worked for the companies, or property managers don't like to use it because they feel that they'll be irrelevant if they do. And the technology that has been implemented has not necessarily made the sort of difference that it should have. So as task forces, our goal is to actually unite this talent with technology and, create the new business model. So, yeah, I get really excited about it when I think about it because, this truly is a watershed moment for the industry. And if we do the right thing, we're going to rise out of this and, have a wonderful industry that, property owners will truly respect and value.
Well, I like your idea of watershed moment because I think where we are in life right now, with everything that's going on, is a watershed moment for all of us. Because I believe this is a time of breathing rather than trying to catch your breath. I think this is a time of discovery. I think this is a time to have the time that we haven't had to really take a look at what is it out there that we can do when we get to the other side that will make us better. Now, you've been here, you were in the States for a while, working with a company in California, and you've gone back in the midst of all this to Australia. And is Australia struggling with this bad bug virus the same as we are here in the States?
Well, our cases aren't as high as what the States is, and a lot of that has to do with population, of course. There's only 24 odd million people that live in Australia compared to the States. And, like in California, I think there was, more than double that just in the state where I lived. So Australia has actually had the benefit of seeing what happened in Europe and, and then the USA. And I was in California when the governor and the mayor, started to slowly close down California. And I was there when we had the stay-at-home order. So I had because, my reason is my children, I was becoming very, anxious about being so far away from my children, not knowing what was going to happen with this virus. So, my goal was to get back to Australia with my husband, of course, and be as close as possible, to the children. Because, yeah, I mean, like everyone, it's this virus, it took off like wildfire. When we left the States on the 23rd of March, there was 41,000 cases in total. And, here we are 3 and a bit weeks later, and, you're over 600,000. So, it's really frightening. But in Australia, when we landed, they were just starting to close borders. And we got out on the last commercial flight to Brisbane from LA. And that was, like arriving back in Australia was frightening, because, it wasn't the Australia that we knew when we landed here. So landing at the Brisbane airport, it felt like we were walking into a hospital emergency ward. They were all gowned up in, all their surgery equipment and masks. And, as we were leaving the plane, we were handed all these papers on quarantine and what we needed to do. And we, had to fill out these papers before we left the airport. And it was a really frightening moment, just thinking, what are we walking into? But we went straight from the airport. Luckily, we've got our apartment in downtown Brisbane, and we arrived the day before they started putting everyone into quarantine in hotels. So we were able to go into quarantine in our own home. And what we've seen since we've been here is Australia really looking to the rest of the world, and, making faster decisions, slowing some things, like shopping centres were still open. And, for the life of me, I can't understand why hairdressing salons are still open. But, they had the benefit of seeing what was going on in the Northern Hemisphere. So I think They feel that they've got, the virus under control from spreading. But we are still shut down. Our economy is, still pretty much, it's been brought to a standstill. And, unemployment is going to hit around 10%. So we've still got all of those same, economic factors that the governments are trying to deal with.
As you talk to people, Joanne, what are you hearing from people right now?
I'm hearing a lot of anxiety, in not just their voices, but in the words that they're not saying. Um, and again, I go back to the airport, and what I saw at the airport really did frighten me because it was just kind of like dead faces, what I call those, those dead eyes, where there's, just fear behind the eyes. And I think some people are being rather, like, um, bravo and that about what's going on, but really behind it, they're worried. They're worried about their jobs. They've obviously been worried about food running out, and that's kind of leveling out a little bit now. Though I did go to the grocery store today for the first time in about 5 weeks, and was very shocked to see empty shelves still. So, I think there is still a lot of panic amongst people. They're worried, about not having a job when this is over. They're worried about how long this will go on for. Um, and I think people like myself, who can't see their children and grandchildren, are worried more about their children and grandchildren than themselves. So, and the young ones, I see that they're worried about, their parents. Um, so, and I heard that in my children's voices when I was still in California, when they were calling me every day, and I could hear the level of anxiety just rising in their voices, just saying, "Get home, mum. You've got to be home." Um, so yeah, I mean, it is something that none of us have ever, lived through before, and none of us saw coming, and none of us can understand how this could happen so quickly. It's brought the world to its knees almost. So um, yeah, it's that same worry everywhere.
One of the things that when we were talking about, and I asked you to spend this time with me, one of the questions I asked you, or one of the things I asked from you, if you would put together some ideas, some tips, some suggestions of how to maintain your sanity in the midst of this time. Because I think people are being challenged today at the level of their stress. Uh, we know stress is a natural part of life. You can't live without it, and you sure don't want to live with it controlling your life. And this new abnormal has really increased the stress level in people's lives. So, what would you tell people? What would be your suggestions uh, of how to maintain your sanity during this time? What would you tell them?
Yeah, well, I did put together a list, and this is based on, experience from, several years ago when my normal became abnormal, and I had to, learn how to have a whole new world. Um, and, the first thing I see this crisis as being is an equalizer. It's, like we're all in this together. We truly are. There's no one who their money or their beauty or their brains can get them through this. We are all equal through this. Um, and, that displays our humanness. And I think we've lost that over the years. So I don't see this as a crisis. I actually see it as an equalizer. It's an opportunity for us to all, reconnect to our humanness and our souls again. Um, and, I did a lot of that soul searching many, many years ago. The other thing I see this as is, I remember a word people used to say to me many years ago when I was going through, what was my, worst moment ever in my life. And they always used to say, you will recover from this. And I used to look at them and think, how do you ever recover from a shattered heart? Like you can't recover from this. The parts of my heart are missing and they'll be missing forever. But what I discovered through, working through living with my new normal was you never recover, but you rediscover. So you rediscover what your new pathway is and what you need to do to find the joy in your new pathway as well. Um, and part of that was, accepting that I can't control everything. There's certain things that I'll never be able to control. Um, but, I can control the way I respond to things. Um, and, again, I refer back to my moment 10 years ago when I wanted to give up. I wanted to, depart from this world. I just couldn't see myself ever breathing again, um, you know, ever wanting to live again. But I learned that, like I have to reflect on what happens and, control the way I respond to situations. And I've learned that lesson and taken it through in everything that, has happened ever since, that moment 10 years ago. And there's been a lot of things, as you know, Richard, that, I've had to work through, over these past 10 years and recently when I was in the USA. So, it's very, very important to really have that inner reflection and, think about the way that you're responding to the things that you can't control. And of course, the other thing that I've learned is that, like get out of your head. Stop listening to everyone else's perspectives and everything. And if you really connect to your soul, the answers are within your soul on what you need to do. There is so much noise out there and so many opinions that, I believe that God has put the answers in our soul. And if we go inside our soul, we will find that calmness that we all need, especially now, because, you said it at the start of this, that everyone needs to stay calm. And that's what it's all about, stop making bigger stories than what it is. This is big, absolutely. It's huge. But, it's, it's not going to go away by us, you know, just making things bigger than what they are. The solutions are there for us. And the other thing that you actually taught me to do this was reflection. And, so I reflect on my past and look at how my past has created a pathway to my future and a pathway to my purpose and, a pathway to all those defining moments in my life that, have made me who I am today. And, I love who I am today. I'm human. I break, I cry, but it's okay because being human means that we have emotions. And then the other thing that, is was really a powerful moment for me is when I did want to give up. I wanted to, check out of here because I just thought I could not live another day longer. And I clearly remember this vision in my head and a voice telling me, you have two paths in front of you. Look down the paths and tell me which one you'll choose. And I believe that that voice was God. I really do. And I looked down both paths, and one pathway was very dark and very scary and frightening and almost evil, very negative, very draining. I just looked down there and shivered. I looked down the other path and I saw, joy and happiness and just white light and just, goodness. And I, said, I choose the path of light. And God said, you've chosen wisely, because the dark path was the path of resentfulness and the light path was the path of resilience. And I remember saying out loud, I choose resilience. And that choice in life has, been a pathway that I've walked ever since that, message that I believe was from God guiding me. And so I look for the joy in everything. Um, and I find joy in moments even when, like I'm just heartbroken. So, that was, you know, very, very powerful for me.
Well, and I'm not going to take time to go into this, but just to put a foundation to this, 10 years ago, Joanne lost her oldest son. And that's something you wish on no person ever has to go through this. And people handle it so differently. And I'm proud of the way that Joanne has come through this. Not been easy, it's been a challenge. Um, I've watched her be on the emotional roller coaster, up and down. And, it's what you were talking about with one point there. People say you'll recover from this. Um, you never recover from it.
No.
But I like your choice. It's not about recovering, it's about rediscovering. And life goes on, and we can either stay in the pain we're in, or we can take the pain we've been through and translate that into rediscovering life and what you had when you had your son, rediscovering the joy and everything he brought to your life. Uh, and I wish that on no person, but I'm going to tell you something. This is a lady who handled it and worked through her pain. And that big part of that pain is still there. It'll be with her the rest of her life. But she has made it a time of rediscovery. Um, I got two more things before we close out, Joanne. If people would like to reach out to you with any questions about any aspect of this, how can they reach you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They can email me, and my email address is J-O, at Irrevolution. It's IREVILOUTION.com. Or, they can call me. So, um, oh, bless you.
That's
I'm glad.
all through this.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't me because I've got the loudest sneeze. I deafen people.
Yeah.
um, or they can reach out to me, through Facebook or LinkedIn. They're really good, avenues. And of course, we can jump on a private messenger and chat there either by voice or video. But I'm always happy to share with people and um, help them to feel calm through whatever it is that they're going through. And, it's just see it as lessons and find that pathway through. I feel blessed that God spoke to me because, before that, the paths were dark.
Yeah. So, last question. What do you hope? What do you hope we look like when we get to the other side of this?
I really do hope that, we have more time for family and friends. Our world was getting so fast before, and it's amazing how quickly, we kind of like spun down to, just almost nothing. And I was talking to my daughter just before this, and she couldn't remember what day it was, and she said it feels like time is going fast and slow all at the same time. So, I hope that, we slow down and spend more time with family, and reflecting on ourselves as well. Um, so, one of the other things I really hope that comes from this is that people are grateful for their jobs, whatever that job is, because that job is taking them somewhere. That, it will be their ultimate purpose in life. And, this sense of entitlement that you and I have talked about many, many times, I hope that's eradicated forever. And, when someone has a job, especially now that they've seen that, they can lose their job so quickly, that they're grateful to be there and, be able to earn that money and provide a service to the people that they've chosen to serve. And I really hope that, as well as being grateful, that they're willing to be accountable. Because when you're willing to be accountable, it means you're willing to learn, you're willing to grow, and take feedback on board as something that's positive that helps you to, learn and grow and stretch yourself. And the other thing I hope is that, people learn to accept their beauty, the person that they are. That, everyone is beautiful from the inside out. And we've become a world where everyone wants to be beautiful from the outside in. And so I really hope that, this is a time when, women, we can't go to beauty parlors and all things like that. We're starting to see who we really are, and accept that we are beautiful, that men are beautiful, and beauty really does reflect from the inside out. So, you know, I hope people aren't offended by this, but I hope the fakeness that has infiltrated our world disappears after this. And I, I think the other thing is that I hope that we don't have any more clicks, that, we have community rather than clicks, because we've seen a lot of clicks in people. And I hope we get back to community and, wanting to share, this willing to share and be with others instead of taking from others. So yeah, that's what I'd like to see, on the other side of this, that, we're a more united and together world. And that, like I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. And I hope that, God enters our lives and we hear it like I did. And see, some people call him God, others call it the universe, whatever you call it, that spend time reflecting on, all of those things that are going on in your head, that, you're spinning so fast, doing so many things that we're not hearing it. So, yeah, I hope the world is quieter and more at peace after this.
Well, and I like that. I like that. And I'm going to take the word that you have used because I think it's a capsule word that really just pulls together everything you've said, and that this time, wherever we are, that we use this time is a time of rediscovery, um, finding what our priorities are, what's really important to us. Because I think anytime the rug is pulled out from under you, with or without your permission, it's a path you've got to choose. And I think this is a time where we can rediscover the real meaning of life to us and the real purpose of life that we have with other people. I really, really, really appreciate you taking this time with us and sharing with us. And so I look forward to the next time I get to see you in person. And
Definitely.
take care of yourself, okay, there in Australia. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you, Richard.